The soft glow of string lights illuminated Lucas Reed's Chicago apartment, casting a warm ambience over the cluttered living room. Vinyl records were stacked haphazardly on a shelf. A half-finished painting rested on an easel, and a coffee mug sat forgotten on the windowsill. Lucas, 25, stood in his bedroom, staring at a locked wooden box on his dresser, his heart racing with a mix of frustration and anticipation. The box held his secret, a carefully curated collection of makeup he'd been using for months to explore a side of himself he kept hidden from the world. But tonight, the key was missing, and Lucas had a sinking feeling he knew who'd taken it: his best friend, Isabella. Lucas was a freelance illustrator, working from his apartment in Chicago's Wicker Park, a neighborhood buzzing with artists, hipsters, and late-night cafes. By day, he was the quirky, dependable guy who delivered vibrant designs for book covers and local businesses, his curly blonde hair and blue eyes giving him a boyish charm. But in private, Lucas had a passion for crossdressing, a secret he'd nurtured since college, when he'd stumbled into a theater makeup class and discovered the thrill of transformation. It wasn't about becoming someone else. It was about amplifying a part of himself he'd always felt but never expressed, a fluid, expressive identity that defied the rigid expectations of his small-town Ohio upbringing. His parents, traditional and distant, had raised him to fit in, and crossdressing was his rebellion, a way to embrace his creativity and vulnerability. The apartment was his safe haven, a space where he could experiment without judgment. The walls were covered in his artwork, bold, colorful illustrations that mirrored his inner world. His closet held his usual wardrobe of graphic tees and jeans, but behind a hidden panel was a collection of dresses, heels, and a wig, carefully concealed to avoid prying eyes. Crossdressing was a form of self-expression for Lucas, a way to explore the fluidity of his identity, but he saw it as a private ritual, not a permanent part of his life. The fear of being discovered, of being judged or rejected, kept him guarded, especially around those closest to him. Isabella was his best friend, not his girlfriend, though Lucas had harbored a quiet crush on her for over a year. She was a barista and aspiring poet, with a sharp wit, dark curls, and hazel eyes that seemed to see right through him. They'd met at a local open mic night, bonding over their shared love of art and late-night talks about life's big questions. Isabella was open-minded, always encouraging Lucas to be his true self, but he never told her about his crossdressing. The thought of her finding out, of her seeing him as less or pulling away, was a constant fear. Their friendship was built on trust, but this secret was a wall between them, one Lucas wasn't sure he could dismantle. Last night, Isabella had been over for a movie marathon, and Lucas had caught her eyeing the locked box on his dresser with curiosity. "What's in there? Your secret art supplies?" she teased, her smile playful but probing. He laughed it off, but now the key was gone, and he suspected she'd taken it as a prank, or worse, to uncover his secret. His phone buzzed, pulling him from his thoughts. A text from Isabella. "Hey, I'm grabbing dinner nearby. Be over in an hour to hang. You okay?" His heart lurched. An hour. Not enough time to search for the key, but the pull to transform, to reclaim his ritual, was too strong to resist. Lucas's only other close connection was his neighbor, Mia, a graphic designer who occasionally collaborated with him on projects. Mia was supportive but oblivious to his secret, always too busy with her own work to notice his guarded moments. Chicago's artsy scene was accepting, but Wicker Park's tight-knit community meant gossip spread fast, and Lucas feared exposure. The missing key felt like a betrayal, a challenge from Isabella to confront his secret. He rummaged through the dresser, hoping to find a spare, but came up empty. The box sat locked, mocking him, but he remembered a spare makeup kit in his bathroom. Older products he'd stashed away. Tonight, he'd transform without the box, key or no key, and deal with Isabella later. Lucas's pulse quickened as he moved to the bathroom, where a small, dusty makeup bag was hidden under the sink. The apartment's string lights cast a soft glow, amplifying the intimacy of the moment. He unzipped the bag, revealing a cracked foundation compact, a half-used eyeliner pencil, and a tube of coral lipstick. The products were outdated, but they'd do. He glanced at the clock, 6:30 p.m. Isabella's text gave him less than an hour, a ticking clock that made every decision feel like a high-stakes gamble. He could wait, confront her about the key when she arrived, but the urge to transform was overwhelming, a need to reclaim the part of himself he'd kept hidden. He started with the foundation, smoothing it over his skin with a sponge, watching his imperfections blur into a softer canvas. The sensation was familiar yet thrilling, like stepping into a role he'd rehearsed in secret. The eyeliner was trickier, the pencil dull, but he managed a steady line, making his blue eyes pop with intensity. Mascara lengthened his lashes, and the coral lipstick, though slightly dried out, transformed his mouth into something bold and expressive. He stared at his reflection, barely recognizing the person looking back. His features were softer, more delicate, as if the makeup had unlocked a hidden version of himself, a version that felt more alive, more authentic. Back in the bedroom, he opened the closet's hidden panel, revealing his secret collection. He chose a navy blue dress, sleeveless with a fitted bodice and a flowing skirt that swished against his legs. He slipped it on, the fabric cool and smooth, and zipped it up, the sound loud in the silence. The dress hugged his slim frame, accentuating his shoulders and hips in a way that felt both foreign and right. He added a pair of black heels, modest, since he was still mastering balance, and a short brunette wig, its curls framing his face. The transformation was complete, but the mirror showed a mix of confidence and vulnerability. He felt beautiful, but also exposed, like a secret laid bare. The clock read 6:50 p.m. Isabella could arrive any minute. The thrill of transformation was now laced with panic. What if she saw him like this? What if she'd hidden the key to force him to confess? The thought of losing her friendship, of her judging him or pulling away, was a knife in his chest. Crossdressing was his sanctuary, but it was also his secret, one he'd guarded fiercely since college. The shame wasn't in the act itself, but in the fear of being seen, of being reduced to a stereotype. Yet, the excitement was undeniable, a rush that made his skin tingle and his heart race. He moved to the living room, heels clicking softly on the hardwood, and put on a playlist of soft jazz to calm his nerves. The music filled the space, and he swayed gently, letting the dress move with him. For a moment, he was free, imagining himself at an art gallery opening, confident and untouchable in his navy dress. The fantasy was intoxicating, but it was shattered by a text notification that made his blood run cold. "Wow, you look better than me in that." It was from Isabella. Lucas froze, his phone trembling in his hand. How did she know? Had she seen him through the window? The blinds were half open, a careless mistake. He rushed to close them, heart hammering, but another text came through. "That dress is fire. Try the red lipstick next." His mind raced. Was she outside, watching? Or had someone else seen him and used her phone? He typed a response, "What are you talking about?" But his fingers shook and he deleted it. He needed to change, to erase the evidence before she arrived, but the pull to stay in this moment was strong. He darted to the bedroom, fumbling with the dress's zipper, but it caught, the fabric snagging in his haste. The heels wobbled as he kicked them off, one rolling under the bed. He grabbed a tissue, wiping at his face, but the lipstick smeared into a coral streak, the eyeliner smudging into dark lines. The mirror showed a mess, half Lucas, half someone else, caught between two identities. Another text buzzed. "I'm here. Open the door." His stomach dropped. She was outside, and he was still in the dress. The front door creaked open, and Isabella's voice called out, "Lucas? You in there?" Her tone was playful, but there was an edge to it, a curiosity that made his blood run cold. He grabbed a hoodie from the bed, yanking it over the dress, but the skirt still peeked out, a traitor to a secret. He shoved the heels further under the bed and stood in front of the mirror, trying to compose himself. His reflection was chaotic, makeup smeared, wig slightly askew, dress half hidden. He looked like a half-finished portrait, exposed and raw. Isabella appeared in the doorway, her dark curls loose, her hazel eyes scanning the room. Hey, you okay? She said, her smile faltering as she took in his disheveled appearance. What's with the makeup? Her gaze dropped to the hem of the dress, and Lucas felt the world tilt. Is that my dress? She asked, her voice a mix of surprise and something else, amusement? Intrigue? I can explain, he stammered, his voice barely audible. But before he could find the words, his phone buzzed again. Another text from Isabella. You're killing it. Where's my key? His heart stopped. She was standing right in front of him, not holding her phone. Was someone else using her number? Or was this a game, a test of his trust? He looked at her, confusion and fear warring in his chest, and knew he was running out of time to decide. Confess everything or keep hiding. Lucas's mind spun as he stood frozen in the bedroom, the navy dress a heavy secret beneath the oversized hoodie. Isabella's eyes were locked on him, her brow furrowed with a mix of curiosity and concern. Lucas, what's going on? She asked, stepping closer, her backpack slung over one shoulder. The latest text, you're killing it. Where's my key? Burned in his hand, sent from her number. But she was right here, not texting. His stomach churned. Was someone pranking him? Had someone seen him through the window and hacked her account? Or was Isabella playing a game, testing him in a way he couldn't understand? It's not your dress, he said, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. I have my own. I've been doing this for a while, but you hid my makeup key, didn't you? His voice cracked, his face burning with shame. He tugged the hoodie down, trying to hide the dress, but the movement only drew her attention to the skirt peeking out. Her eyes widened, but there was no judgment in them, only surprise. Okay, she said slowly, setting her backpack down. I didn't hide your key, Lucas. I saw the box, sure, and I was curious, but I wouldn't do that. Why didn't you tell me about this? Her tone was gentle, but the question felt like a spotlight, exposing his deepest fears. He'd spent months hiding his crossdressing, and now this, caught in the act, felt like a betrayal of their friendship. Before he could answer, the doorbell rang, sharp and jarring. Lucas's heart lurched. Who's that? Isabella asked, her tone shifting to suspicion. She moved toward the door, but Lucas grabbed her arm, panic rising. Don't, he said, his voice urgent. I'm not. I can't let anyone see me like this. His hands shook as he gestured to the hoodie, the dress, the smeared makeup. Isabella looked at him, then at the door, hesitating as the bell rang again. I'll see who it is, she said, pulling away. Stay here. Lucas's mind raced. What if it was Mia, his neighbor, dropping off a project file? Or a delivery person, curious about the noise? Chicago apartments were notorious for thin walls, and he'd been careless with the blinds. He bolted to the bathroom, shutting the door behind him, and frantically began to change. The dress's zipper snagged, the fabric tearing slightly as he yanked it off. The wig caught on his hoodie, pulling askew, and the makeup smeared further as he scrubbed his face with a wet towel. From the living room, he heard voices, Isabella's and another, unfamiliar. A woman's voice, clipped and professional. I'm looking for Lucas Reed, the woman said. I'm with building management. We've had reports of suspicious activity in the complex. Have you noticed anything unusual? Lucas's blood ran cold. Suspicious activity? His mind flashed to the texts, the open blinds, the moment he'd stood in the living room, swaying in the dress. Had someone seen him? Was that why Isabella's phone was sending those messages? He glanced at the mirror, where a single heel lay exposed under the sink, glinting in the light. It was a small thing, but it felt like a beacon, a symbol of his vulnerability. Isabella's voice was calm, deflecting. Nothing unusual here. Just hanging out. We'll let you know if we see anything. The woman thanked her and left, but Lucas's relief was short-lived. He stepped out of the bathroom, the dress and wig discarded, his face mostly clean but still flushed. Isabella was waiting, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Suspicious activity, she said, raising an eyebrow. Care to explain what's going on, Lucas? And what's with the text you keep looking at? She nodded toward his phone, still clutched in his hand. He swallowed hard, the weight of the moment crushing. I got these texts from your number, he said, showing her the screen. Saying I looked better than you, suggesting red lipstick, asking about the key. But you were here, not texting. I don't know what's happening. His voice shook, the fear of being watched, exposed, overwhelming him. Isabella's eyes widened as she read the messages. I didn't send these, she said, her voice sharp. Someone's using my number or… I don't know. Spoofing it. She grabbed her own phone, checking her sent messages, but found nothing. Lucas, this is creepy. Who could have seen you? His mind raced. The open blinds, the texts, the building management's visit, it was too much coincidence. I don't know, he said, his voice barely a whisper. I was careful, but maybe someone saw me through the window. Or maybe, he trailed off, a new fear gripping him. Had someone in the building been watching him, waiting for this moment? He thought of Mia, who'd been overly curious about his late-night work sessions, or the landlord, Mr. Hayes, who always seemed to linger too long when collecting rent. We need to figure this out, Isabella said, her voice firm. But first, tell me the truth. How long have you been crossdressing? Is this who you are? Her eyes searched his, and Lucas felt a surge of defiance, a need to stop hiding. I started in college, he admitted, his voice steadying. It's not about being someone else. It's about being more of myself. I didn't tell you because I was scared you'd think I'm weird or pull away. I like you, Isabella, more than just a friend, and I couldn't bear losing you. The confession hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. Isabella's expression softened, and she stepped closer, touching his arm. You're not losing me, she said. I like you too, Lucas, and this doesn't change that. But these texts, someone knows something, and it's freaking me out. Before he could respond, a loud crash came from the hallway, like glass shattering. They froze, eyes darting toward the sound. What was that? Isabella whispered, her hand tightening on his arm. Lucas's mind flashed to the open blinds, the mysterious texts, the building management's warning. Had someone been in the apartment? He grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer, his heart pounding, and moved toward the hallway, Isabella close behind. The hallway was dark, the light bulb overhead flickering. A small picture frame, one of Lucas's paintings, lay shattered on the floor, its glass scattered like tiny accusations. The window at the end of the hall was open, curtains flapping in the night breeze. Had someone climbed in? Lucas's phone buzzed again, another text from Isabella's number. You're braver than you think. Keep going. His blood ran cold. Someone was watching and they were close. He showed the text to Isabella, whose face paled. This isn't me, she said, her voice trembling. We need to call the police. But as she reached for her phone, Lucas noticed something on the floor near the broken frame, a small, folded note in unfamiliar handwriting. You looked better than her. Don't stop now. The note was unsigned, but it was written on a piece of paper torn from one of his sketchbooks, a personal violation that made his skin crawl. Lucas stood in the hallway, the flashlight trembling in his hand as he stared at the note. You looked better than her. Don't stop now. The broken frame crunched under his feet, each shard reflecting his fear. Isabella gripped his arm, her eyes darting to the open window where the night air carried a chill. The text from her number, you look better than me in that. You're killing it, hung between them like a threat. Who was watching? Who had been in his apartment, leaving notes and breaking frames? The apartment, once a sanctuary, now felt like a trap, and Lucas was the unwitting prey. We need to call the police, Isabella said, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. Someone was here, Lucas. This isn't just about the makeup or the dress anymore. She pulled out her phone, but Lucas hesitated, his mind racing. Calling the police meant explaining everything. The dress, the makeup, the texts. What if they didn't take it seriously? What if they exposed his secret to the entire building, to Wicker Park's gossip-hungry community? He nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere, caught on the note's cryptic message. Don't stop now. Was this a prank, a stalker, or something more personal? He thought of Mia, who'd been nosy about his late-night habits, or Mr. Hayes, the landlord who always seemed to know too much. Had someone seen him through the window, mistaken his actions for something suspicious? Or was it someone closer, Someone who knew Isabella's number and Lucas's vulnerabilities? Let's check the apartment first, Lucas said, his voice hoarse. Make sure no one's still here. He led Isabella back to the bedroom, the flashlight cutting through the darkness. The dress lay crumpled on the floor, the heels half hidden under the bed, the makeup bag open on the vanity. It was a crime scene of his own making, each item a piece of evidence that could unravel his life. Isabella picked up the dress, holding it gently, as if it were a relic. You don't have to be ashamed of this, she said softly. I think it's brave, exploring who you are. And you do look good in it. Her smile was small but genuine, a flicker of hope in the storm of his anxiety. Her words were a balm, but the fear lingered. He wanted to believe her, to trust that she could accept this side of him, but the note and texts were a reminder that someone else was watching, someone who might not be so kind. He checked the closet, the bathroom, under the bed. No one was there, but the open window in the hallway gnawed at him. Had someone climbed in, left the note, and slipped out? He returned to the living room, where another text buzzed. Look in the box. Lucas's heart stopped. He grabbed the locked wooden box from the dresser, the one missing its key. Had the intruder left something inside? He shook it, hearing a faint rattle, but without the key, it was useless. Isabella's eyes widened. Lucas, this is serious. Someone's been in here, messing with your stuff. Before they could act, a loud knock echoed through the apartment, sharp and urgent. They froze, the sound a jolt to their already frayed nerves. Lucas Reed, a man's voice called through the door. This is Officer Daniels. We got a report of a break-in at this address. Open the door. Lucas's blood ran cold. A break-in? The texts, the note, the broken frame. Had someone reported him, mistaken his actions for something criminal? Or was this about the Watcher, someone who'd seen too much? He looked at Isabella, her eyes wide with the same questions. The dress, the heels, the makeup, they were all in the bedroom, exposed. If the officer came in, saw the evidence, Lucas's secret could be out, not just to Isabella, but to the world. What do we do? Isabella whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of his heart. He didn't know. The box in his hands felt like a Pandora's box, the note a warning he couldn't ignore. Was he ready to face the consequences of his transformation, to step fully into the person he'd glimpsed in the mirror? Or would he hide, as he always had, and risk losing the chance to understand himself? The officer knocked again, louder, and Lucas knew the moment of truth was here.